All right, we're back. And again, folks, we're with Lenny Siegel, and we're talking about vapor intrusion, which is probably the first time you've ever actually heard it. When I talked about dirt and stuff and oil and stuff like that, that's really kind of only touching the surface, isn't it?
Well, the problem is it's not just contaminated soil. We've known about that problem for a long time. It's in your own home, in your own kitchen, in your own bedroom, in your own basement, you can be exposed.
Okay.
Let me give you an example.
Okay.
My friend Jane lives across the street from one of the Superfund sites in Mountain View. And if you look at the maps, her home is just about at the contour where there's 5 parts per billion of trichloroethylene in the groundwater. And everybody's known that for a while, and she insisted, she's a member of our community advisory group in Mountain View, she insisted that EPA come out and sample her home, EPA and the companies that are responsible for cleaning up. And she found that her son, for his entire life, her 11-year-old son, has been breathing trichloroethylene at unsafe levels. Only know about that because she insisted that it be sampled. Now there's an argument about what a safe level is, because under the old standards, he's probably barely safe. Under the new standards that EPA came out with in 2001, he's not safe at all.
Yeah,
and the concern that we have, and what we've been working on nationally, because when they started these investigations in Mountain View, EPA told us trichloroethylene is 5 to 65 times as toxic as previously believed. It affects children in a much stronger way than it affects other people. And if you want to protect children, you need much more stringent standards. And they began a program based on those new standards.
Yeah, because a lot of the old standards for formaldehyde and phenols, which are glues, and benzenes, what they considered the safe level really should be cut in half.
Yeah.
Their levels are way off.
This should be 5 to 65 times as protective. And EPA did a study in 2001. Its Science Advisory Board endorsed it in 2002. And when they were coming to Mountain View, the Defense Department and the White House said, no, we can't do that. It's going to be too costly. We want you to send this out for more study. So right now, the standard for trichloroethylene, which should be much more protective, is back to the old level. Still not safe for in that home, and they aren't going to have a new standard for years.
Okay, and people are going to say this is not happening to me, but here's the thing, Lenny, is people are buying and selling houses and trading houses and running around trying to make their money in homes and equity and trying to all be rich, and trying to get that whole thing going, and it's kind of a rat race. It's kind of like a dog chasing its tail, actually. But they're moving into homes that they don't know.
Well,
and then there are homes like near Guadalupe, where they build houses on a landfill.
Well, one of the problems is that the disclosure laws for notifying prospective homeowners about potential contamination. What that means is you go in closing and you're signing documents, and after you've signed about 20 documents, the 21st document is, oh, by the way, this is located near these leaking underground storage tanks and landfills and gas stations, and somebody's looking at them. Nobody in their right mind is going to stop at that point. The disclosure is too late. So we got the city of Mountain View.
So in other words, this is all real estate stuff.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is they're going through the whole deal, and at the very end, they're plopping down saying, oh, by the way.
Yeah, and it's not definite. It doesn't say you're going to get poisoned. You're just going to say, here's a list of sites in your area that have contamination.
Well, but
what we got the Mountain View City Council to do on a new development in an area near an area where there's known vapor intrusion, to actually notify people at the point of marketing. And so they're requiring that the developer, the seller of these new homes, notify people when they come to look at the models. And I don't think those homes have been built yet, but when they are, we're going to be out checking to make sure that there's that notification.
Well, yeah, because of Proposition 65, they have to let the people know that the building materials in the homes can cause cancer. Now, that can be encapsulated very, very easily, even with AFM paint, which is an encapsulant type paint, which will do that. But when you talk about how do you encapsulate so the gases don't come up to your house.
There are things that you can do to prevent vapor intrusion. The problem is you have to make sure they're working and make sure they continue working. In one of the new housing complexes in Mountain View, they were supposed to put membranes, basically rubber membranes or plastic membranes on the concrete slabs to prevent vapor intrusion. It seems to have worked in most units, but one unit, apparently it's not, because they found unsafe, very high levels of trichloroethylene in that unit. Mm-hmm. And you have to basically, even though you may have a technique for protecting people, you have to test it. And who knows how long this membrane will last? Will it be 1 year, 10 years? What happens when there's a next quake and creates cracks? Will this be open? One of the problems with vapor intrusion is vapors or gases find a preferential pathway.
Yeah.
And if there's a crack, if there's a pipe that goes through the foundation into the unit, then the gases are going to find that. And I like it when I explain it to the public at public meetings. I always talk about the flat tire I had on my bicycle about 2 months ago. Very small nail went into that tire, but because there was a pressure gradient, all of the air went out. And the same thing is with vapor intrusion. If there's any opening between the contaminated subsurface and where people are living or working, then the gas is going to make it up.
Do you think that the real estate people should be more aware and be more accountable to this?
Absolutely, because they're going to get sued by the people who buy these homes if they aren't notified, and that's what people are doing all over the country.
Because a lot of time they really do turn and burn these houses. I see, because I go in and I fix tile, do tile repair and natural stone repair, and I see a lot of cutting corners by some of the real estate people, and I say some, not all, but really don't care. They're into selling the house and really don't care about anybody else. They get their commission and they're gone, and they have no idea what's going to happen to the children when they grow up, and then they decide to have children, and who knows genetically what's going to happen there.
Well, they aren't the only ones that need to be held accountable. They definitely need to be held accountable. The responsible parties, these are the polluters usually, or the people who are like the financial descendants of the polluters. They have to be held accountable, because the best thing to do is to clean up the mess, clean it up faster, rather than rely on membranes or fans and other radon type systems to blow the air outside so people don't breathe the contamination.
What about the developers? I mean, there's a developer in the city of Santa Clara want to put housing on top of barrack, and that used to be a research facility with pesticides. I mean, that place is a mess. What about when developers want to put land on top of that and they say, we'll take out the first 2 feet and we should be fine, when theoretically when the rain hits, toxins go down about 2 feet per day anyway, and it's so far deep into the ground. What happens when they start doing that?
One needs to have the public involved in making these decisions. Part of the problem is that the cities that approve these developments don't have the environmental expertise. And what we got in Mountain View is we got the city after we had a problem like this. We already had the problem, a bunch of upset homeowners who are living on a place where there's contamination.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, so the city got involved, and so the next time they consulted with US EPA. They got the US EPA experts to talk to them, and they developed a series of requirements under CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, to make sure that people in the next development were protected. And so there are ways for the public to get involved and to insist that our local officials work with the environmental regulators to protect people. But again, the best way to protect people is to make sure that the cleanup is done beforehand. And one of the things, whether or not the polluter is paying for it or the cleanup or the developer, land, particularly land for housing, is so valuable around here is they can afford to do it. That is,
will they do it correctly, and is there anybody that they have to be accountable to that will inspect it to make sure, or are they going to cut corners? And
well, there's always an effort by people with these responsibilities to try to do things as low a cost as possible. And that's why the public needs to be involved. In Mountain View, we have a community advisory group overseeing 4 vapor intrusion sites. We also have the Restoration Advisory Board at Moffett Field, which is overseeing the vapor intrusion sites at Moffett, Hangar 1, and the wetlands cleanup. The only way you can be sure that local government, environmental regulators, developers, and polluters are doing the right thing to protect us and our children is to get involved, to learn how to read the reports, learn what the laws are, and keep going to meetings until everything is done and done right. And stay involved to make sure that nothing goes bad in the future.
Well, because a lot of times the developers really have the control. They have a lot more power than even the elected officials. And a lot of times, because of the money and what it brings into the city or county, is a lot of times they'll just look the other way. And no, I mean, I know for a fact a couple of things, and I won't mention it, but that the city councils in different towns will allow things to happen knowing it's wrong. If something happens in a cancer cluster happens to happen in a neighborhood, can they be held responsible?
I don't think you can sue city councils for bad decisions.
If they were forewarned, put on notice.
Yeah, it's difficult. But the way I view it is you don't wait till things go bad. We have a long history in this area with the Silicon Valley Toxics Coalition, groups that I've been affiliated with in Mountain View. We can get things done. Our communities are empowered. I'm working now with folks in Louisiana where people are, they're hit by the hurricane and now they're going to be hit by open burning of contaminated building materials.
God, all that oil and stuff that gets into the ground, and then come next summertime when it starts outgassing, holy moly.
And these are active people, these are smart people, but they don't have the kind of power that the residents of this area have. And we've shown time and time again that we can force cleanup, and we can force good cleanup. And it's just a matter of getting involved, doing your homework, and staying involved. And that's what we're doing with the Safe Haven 1 Committee. I'm doing it at the Center for Public Environmental Oversight, the Toxics Coalition. There are lots of groups around if people want to decide this is important. And you can't wait to find out whether your kid is going to get liver disease. I've met people from like Camp Lejeune, people lived in marine housing, and they're talking, they were exposed to TCE years ago and didn't find out about it, and now they're talking about what happened to their kids. We don't have to wait for that. We know there's a problem. We don't know whose kid is going to be hurt. We don't know which disease they're going to get, but we know there's going to be a problem.
And we need to pay attention.
Absolutely.
Listen, we're out of time, and I thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much.
You keep digging into those people and letting them know what's happening.
Thanks a lot.
Folks, listen, we're plumb out of time, and I just want to thank you for watching. And ask questions. Go to Lenny's website and start asking for this stuff because you need to know, man. It's your kids and your family's future. Take care. Bye-bye.